A challenge to you, viewer. Show me a leftist political cause that isn't now reaching absolute clown world levels of absurdity, but that didn't get there by gaslighting and incrementalism. Gaslighting good people when they said, I think this is what's possible to happen in the future. No, you're a conspiracy theorist, you're a kook, etc., racist, bigot, homophobe, all the isms under the sun. And then incrementally working politically, socially, culturally through the institutions to achieve these ends anyway. Of course, the classic one we've all lived through is 2 weeks to flatten the curve. But 2 weeks, if you ever questioned that, you became once again a conspiracy theorist, an anti-vaxxer, etc. But those 2 weeks incrementally evolved into 3 years, small business decimated, people with injuries, inflation, housing crisis, you name it, not in a good shape. So you can look back at that and say, wow, they really did gaslight people when they should have known better. The Indigenous Affairs Grievance Industry Complex. In New Zealand, there is a push now, which the government has defended, to put Indigenous people at the front of the line for transplants and surgeries. So the rule of law, equal rule of law, has turned into some animals are more equal than others, in true Soviet style, as it always is. In Western Australia, coming into effect next month, if you have a property over 1,100 metres square large and you want to do any significant work on your property whatsoever, you will actually have to pay an Aboriginal elder for their spiritual blessing. They have to give you the license to do that work. You have to pay a rent to them so that you can work and make money. And I've said on Twitter recently that this Indigenous grievance industry is just repackaged communism, because just like the communists of old, they're still going after the means of production. The communists originally said, we want to take control of the means of production. But where the communists last century may have killed you, taken your farm or your factory or nationalized it and forced you out, the communists these days are happy for you to do the work, but they're going to sell you the license. They're going to charge you rents on nothing. And of course, what would people have said to you 10 years ago if you'd have said, you know what, in 2023, if you don't want elderly naked men to wave their naked crutches in front of your child's face, you're a homophobe. They would have called you a conspiracy theorist then, rightly so. But once again, gaslighting. Oh no, that could never happen. That could never happen. And then now, incrementally, this is where we're getting to, that overt sexuality, divergent sexualities are being promoted through our institutions. And if you've got anything to say about it, you're a bad person. This is what they call the "that's not happening" to "it is happening and it's a good thing" pipeline. They first say they gaslight you, like I said, gaslight you. That's not happening, you're a bigot, go away, homophobe, transphobe, ism, blah, 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 verbal abuse, and then, well, actually it is happening and that's a good thing and here's why, suck shit. So what happens in all of these things, though, is that they get a foot in the door, they get a little wedge in there, which starts to create a social understanding. Like I've said, a lot of the times the left do social construction. They do socially reinforced magical thinking. And you can see this with welcome to countries everywhere. Welcome to country is a symbol that's saying that someone's welcoming you to their country, which means it's a signal that it's not your country. They're welcoming you to their country because it's not yours. So once again, the appropriate response to this has always been, don't welcome me to my own country. Is this an Aboriginal country? No, it's not. Did they build a country? No. What is a country? Wealth, institutions, law don't just spring out of the land on their own. A country is what people do on the land. And so what is Australia? Australia is largely what people who came here have done here, have done on the land, have done while on the land, and have done to the land. But once again, they start with a social understanding, and then they defend that by gaslighting and abusing everyone else, and then that social understanding incrementally grows into all these absurdities, all these absurd levels. And so the only thing that we can really do is remember Gaslighting and incrementalism, that's what they do. So we have an opportunity coming up this year to be a little bit smarter, to not get suckered in this time. Luckily, they're actually putting it to a vote where we can say, no, I don't think that an Aboriginal bureaucratic body, a de facto Aboriginal house of government, should be enshrined uniquely for them in the Constitution. No, I don't think so. Because you know what will happen is like what's happened with everything, is they start with a social understanding, they start with a social movement, they start with a social construction, and then they exacerbate from there, they incrementalize out from there. So once again, if you look at the LGBT and trans issue, it started as, you're a good person if you don't want to be discriminatory against gay people. Okay, fine. But what happens is all these people, these social strivers, need to keep looking for ways to outdo each other in being a good person. New ways, they have to innovate new ways to show their piety compared to someone else. And so now, being a good person maybe in the 90s was like, okay, I don't want to discriminate against gay people. Now being a good person is, well, you think you're so high and mighty not discriminating against gay people. I took my kid to a gay strip club. Look how good person I am. So it gets to absurd levels through incrementalism. And the only thing that we can do is to wise up a little bit, realize that, and say, unless you have very, very clear outlines and limits on what you want to do, you're probably going to take it somewhere really bad. Really bad. Because once again, even look at the whole central bank digital currencies and coordination between global governments and all sorts of things that's happening that people said a few years ago was going to happen. Now it's happening. They will gaslight you. They're not going to tell you the truth. They will gaslight you. So all we can do is look at their past behavior and wise up. It's been said many times that the best predictor of future behavior is past behavior. And in the past, have they been forthright, honest, fully open? Have they warranted what they want to do? Have they been liable for any negative effects of it? Have they guaranteed what the limits of what they want to do? No, they start with a small thing which they intend to grow, and every step of the way when it's growing, they verbally abuse you if you say anything bad about it. So we have a vote coming up this year, and this is our chance to look at past behaviors of the people pushing it and use those past behaviors to extrapolate what their future behaviors are probably going to be. And from my perspective, it's definitely going to be a no, because these people are not trustworthy. I wouldn't trust them as far as I could kick them, and that's because of their behaviors. And I know that they will like to abuse and gaslight and shame people who judge them on their behaviors, but that's what abusive manipulators do. They abuse and they manipulate, and then when you call them out on it, they feign the victim and they say, you're such a horrible person for holding me account to my actions. But you have to do that regardless, because even the verbal manipulation and abuse in the future is just a tactic. It's just a tactic to achieve their political ends. So judge them on their past behaviors, because we know that their technique is to gaslight, which is to say, that's not happening, you're crazy, you're a conspiracy theorist, etc. And then incrementally just take things to absurd levels that nobody wants. But by the time they're here, nobody has the power to stop them. So don't let them gaslight. Let's look at their past behaviors and judge them on that.